Welcome to the Don't Let That Go Over Your Head podcast, starring Q the Boss.
Yo. Welcome back to another episode of Don't Let That Go Over Your Head podcast. They call me Q the Boss. Today we getting crazy. I'm having fun today, guys. We're talking about seeking validation. I'm going to be honest. And the reason why we're talking about this topic today is because I realize that there are a lot of people who are on journeys to becoming the best version of self. With seeking validation, a lot of times you're going to look for people to validate you who haven't validated themselves. You're going to be looking for people who see you as more of a threat than they actually see you as who you truly are. You're going to be looking for people who's going to be insecure and they're going to project their insecurities on you. How do you say project insecurities? You say things like, I don't think that could happen. You may be wasting your time. I'm going to tell you something, guys. The worst thing you could do is be around someone who does not see the greatness in you. Sometimes you got to realize that there are people who want you to dim your light because they don't see how truly bright you truly are. And a lot of times they want you to dim your light. That's the problem. When you're around people and you're seeking validation, it's the people you may have outgrown who only see you to who you were. So it's hard for them to see the new you because they're ultimately still looking at who you were. That's the problem with seeking validation. You're going to someone who may have learned the lazy spirit you used to be, and you asking them to believe in something that you're about to do, but they cannot see it because they only see what you were. It is hard to project when you're not projecting on yourself. It's hard to see greatness when you don't see the greatness in self. Most haters are closer to you than you truly believe they are. Your biggest hater is closer than you think they are. Because in order for you to feel the hate of someone, they have to know you. It doesn't affect you when the person don't know you. It affects you more when a person knows you. So when you look at it, most people will acknowledge that their haters are usually people they've outgrown. And that's a problem within itself. You want validation. You want someone to tell you that you should know who you are. On your journey to becoming successful, one should be working on their mentality so it's easier for you to embrace and accept yourself. Why are you still looking for yourself and others? Why are you looking for blessings from people who actually been in your life to block your blessings? They don't want you to be great. Because I'm going to tell you something, when a person is on their journey to being great, the person that used to be around you, what happens is when you start transcending and growing and elevating, what happens is this. Now you start showing them how lazy they are. Now you start showing them how bad their life is. So therefore they cannot accept you because they haven't accepted themselves. Do you understand? Let me say that again. When transcending to becoming the best version of yourself, the people that used to be around you start seeing themselves in your lens to the magnitude of they start getting envious and jealous because they don't see they're not growing. When I see someone I grew up with and we had the same equal opportunities, I have to create something in my mind that makes me believe that I am not the problem. I'm going to say things like, you were lucky. You're the exception to the rule. No, I worked hard. I sacrificed. I committed myself. But people do not want to see the poor decisions they're making. So therefore, they have to justify their poor decisions with a continuous behavior. But it is what it is. We're seeking validation from people who don't respect themselves. Because I ask myself all the time, how do you respect yourself, but you continue to put people around you who don't respect you? I shouldn't have to tell you how to respect me when I'm giving you respect. We're seeking validation, guys. Sometimes you got to realize when you're transcending, the cheering will stop. When you're transcending, the cheering will stop. Because now you're growing past levels that they didn't project you to grow past. Now you're leaving levels that they didn't expect you to get to. I want everybody on my live to hear this really well and hear this good. When you're elevating, you will meet the most uncomfortable moments of your life because now you're creating a new version of self in order to inhabit the new area you're trying to climb to. When you're moving up a mountain, the air gets thinner, so therefore you have to learn how to adjust to breathing properly. Let me say that again. Y'all didn't hear me. When you're elevating on the mountain of success, you have to be comfortable and adjust your breathing to the next level because the air gets thinner as you climb up the mountain. But a lot of us want to be on ground level and still behave to the magnitude of the ground level at a higher level. That is impossible. The room will never embrace you, but you can embrace the new room that you want to be in. You have to fit in the new environments that you want to fit into. You gotta stop looking to imagine going through a doorway with a big bag of luggage that cannot fit through the door. Either A, you leave that luggage there, or B, you do not get access to the next level of life. It may be friends in that backpack. It may be family in that backpack. It may be old behaviors in that backpack. There's a lot of things that's gonna be in that backpack that you're gonna have to leave it right there. Imagine flying to another country, right? Kins, you land in another country. When you usually land, you go to something called the conveyor belt, right? And you stand around at something called baggage claim. Here's the dilemma. People travel from different state to state carrying the same mental luggage to every new location they go to. Therefore, still seeking the new level, but yet still bringing poor behaviors. 9 out of 10 people are uncomfortable with becoming new versions of self. Therefore, they stay in the same environments. It takes a very conscious mind to look at yourself and blame yourself for the poor decisions you make. It takes a very conscious mind to see what you're not willing to do that's keeping you from getting to the next level. And this is the logic.
I'll say real quick, even like luggage too, it could be, you know, your girlfriend or like for the men, and for the ladies, it could be your boyfriend.
Listen, that's luggage that you're bringing too. You're bringing bad behaviors, bad relationships. I'm gonna tell you something. It's hard when you want to grow, but you keep putting things that's stopping your growth. Imagine planting something in the ground, which is an idea, but yet and still, you didn't put the manure, you didn't give it the sunlight, you didn't give it the water. You're putting everything that's killing the nutrients from the idea to manifest into greatness. Because 9 out of 10 times when you see something grow, it starts underground, which is the darkest moment and point in life. It starts underground. So while it's manifesting underground, everyone is not seeing the idea. So when you're telling premature minds the idea that you're brewing and you're working on, they cannot see it because it's in its darkest state. It takes a mature mind to stay giving it nurturing, to stay giving it water, to stay giving it the sunlight, knowing that you're going the right direction. It is easy to go the wrong direction when everybody you're around you are going the same wrong direction. Imagine knowing, and you're the 1 out of 100 people, and everyone is going the opposite way when you know the right way to go, but you got to go by yourself. Ask yourself, how many people are willing to do that? How many people are willing to say, I'm willing to leave everybody here to go where I know is right? The hardest decision is when you have to make a decision that is not usually the popular decision. Let me say that again. The hardest decision is to make the right decision when it's usually not the popular decision. It is easy to make the most unpopular decision when everyone is doing the unpopular decisions. And 9 out of 10 people, it's not about popularity, it's about doing what's easy. And their life will remain hard. As long as you do what's easy, your life will always be hard. I realize that some of the people who look at their life as being easy, They've done some of the easiest things, and therefore their life is nowhere near to the magnitude of what they could be. But they go around people who they tend to be doing a little bit better than, therefore thinking that they're in better positions than what they truly are. Life is a game of decisions, choices, being conscious. You can't sit back and tell yourself, I want to be validated, but you're not willing to validate your goddamn self. You're looking for people to embrace the idea that you're creating with small minds. A big idea to a small mind will ultimately fall back down to being small-minded. You just told this person who has never left their neighborhood that you plan on moving to a new location, right, to build a new life. And this person that you just told that idea to is scared to even leave the location that they started in. I'm gonna say this on record. Most people become more successful when they leave the old environment they used to be in. Let me say that again. Most people become more successful when they leave the old environment they're in. Because in order to become the new version of self, one must make themselves extremely uncomfortable. But when you want to stay in environments that are controlled, then you're going to realize that you wasn't controlling the environment. The environment was controlling you. Seeking validation or the need for external approval, right? Let me say that again. Seeking validation or the need for external approval, right? It is a common human tendency where individuals crave, and I say this with conviction, crave recognition and acceptance from others to feel worthy. It can be stem from various factors, including low self-esteem, fear of rejection, and your past experiences. And lastly, things you can create that exist, they don't even exist. The biggest monster in your life is the monster you've never seen, and that's yourself. Everyone is their worst enemy. Everyone is their worst enemy. Because 9 out of 10 times, when you talk bad about yourself, you don't give yourself affirmations with good. You got to be able to tell yourself why something is wrong. You can't just say, I'm going to lose and leave it at that point. How about you sit there, right, and give yourself draw to a conclusion. I'm going to lose if I don't take this serious. Now the situation sounds different. I just told myself I'm going to lose, but I gave myself a reason into why. That is the analogy of parenting. When you check your child, you don't just beat them or check them. You give them a reason into why they're wrong, and you let them explain to you what they could have done different. This is how you talk to yourself. When building self, you have to pour into self, having conversations with self. At first, you're gonna sound crazy because most people only talk to themselves about negativity. When was the last time you said something positive to yourself? When? Every time it's about something that makes you feel lower. When it says self-esteem, what is the first word you hear? Self. And your esteem is what you're pouring into self. So if you don't pour into your self-esteem, how could you ever build any esteem to get forward?
Can we do this quick activity? So I want everybody, we're going to go around the room and just express one time you ever seek validation. I'll go to start. I've seek validation before, like in creative endeavors, whether it's clothes or making music or anything, just trying to make sure everybody has approved of it, or just seeking out to people, or if they didn't like something and I'm down on myself, like, oh, maybe it's not good. But if you go to somebody else, they'll say that it's good as well, but the other person says it's not. So I think that's a big form of that I went through of seeking validation, like worrying about likes, comments, views, things like that, of that nature.
I think when you do what you love, it doesn't matter what people think. You're doing what you love. When art is creating what you like and being yourself in your art. So that's a lot of times, if you're saying you're painting a canvas, you have to paint the canvas that you see in your mind. Most people can't see the idea till the idea is already there.
Yeah, I would say the same thing too from a creative standpoint. just seeking validation from my peers, and also, seeking validation from my quote unquote friends and see what they think about a certain beat or something I just made. And also with the gym too. Sometimes I could get a little too big headed or, get a bit overconfident in a way.
The one thing about that is you could always fix what you can acknowledge. If you can't acknowledge, then you can't fix, right? A process of fixing comes with acknowledgement. The process of fixing comes with acknowledgement. And a lot of people don't acknowledge what's wrong with them, therefore never fixing. So they continue a poor behavior, right? Go ahead, Dre. Turn the mic on. Mic on.
Same thing with what they've been saying as well with creation. I always seek validation when it comes to like mixes and music, and then also life decisions as well, seeing if it's right or wrong. And then sometimes what they say is wrong is right, and what's right is wrong. So it's like one of those type of things in life.
One thing I will say is sometimes being in your own head is how you actually create a scenario that never even happens. A lot of times, the shot that you don't take is the shots that you miss. As an athlete, when you second guess yourself, that's when you ultimately fail. You have to believe it before you can achieve it. And if you don't believe it, you'll never achieve it. Sometimes, with building yourself up, the subconscious mind will tell the conscious mind something from the subconscious mind that makes the conscious mind believe the subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is your thoughts. The conscious mind is your current state. So therefore, the subconscious mind can make the conscious mind believe that the conscious mind cannot achieve what the subconscious mind already has achieved. You thinking in your head that this is what I can be, but your conscious state tells you that you can't. Therefore, never becoming, because the conscious mind is ultimately telling the subconscious mind it cannot. But in reality, the one has to see the dream before the dream can actually manifest. You cannot manifest the dream unless you see the dream first. I've never seen no one create anything great without seeing the dream before it actually happened. It's impossible. One must believe it to achieve it. And by believing it, we're saying with action towards the goal. We want to score, but we ain't even getting on the field. We want to score, and we're not even on the field. But I'm going to tell you something about the person that's on the field. The biggest hater is the person that never had the courage, the ability, or the willingness to get their behinds on the field. That's the person that's going to judge you the most. Think about it. When you listen to people talk about fans as fans, the biggest haters are the people that can't do what the person on the field is doing. Damn. Call in right now, 516. Somebody call in right now. We're going to give you a scenario after this. 516. 253-1150, 516-253-1150. Call in right now. Let's talk about it, right? I seen a guy, right? He got a job, and we were proud of him. And the issue with over celebrating before you get in the end zone is how you ultimately lose. He went to an interview, and I understand he said, I got the job. Okay, that's good. But he quit the other job with the mentality that he already got the other job. So then he went to the other job being very lazy because he thought he was getting a new job. I'm going to tell you something. You don't stop the race until the race is over. You don't stop running till the last whistle is blown. You don't stop playing until it's done. That's the problem. Some of us celebrate before we even get in the end zone. We got a caller calling in right now, guys. Hold on 1 second, caller. We got to learn. Caller, what's going on, caller?
Yeah, how you doing?
What's going on, boss?
Yeah, man. I love your show. You speaking facts. What you were just saying about how people be quitting their jobs or quitting their opportunities because they're thinking ahead, way too ahead, and people gotta remember it's a marathon, not a race.
Talk it again. Say that again, man. Say that one more time.
Yeah, it's a marathon, not a race.
100% facts.
Marathon, not a race. People be jumping ship or burning bridges, not knowing they might need to run back over that bridge. When people gotta learn.
You know what
I learned not to do that.
You know what it is like when you pursuing. The number one thing that most people do during the process of pursuing, they self-sabotage. They do things to themselves that makes them, because you're trying to break a level of comfort. It's like there's a resistance there. It's like now you're stretching your new rubber band, right? But you got to be comfortable because you know when the rubber band snaps back, it hurts. But you got to be comfortable enough to know that even if you pull it all the way to its capacity, if it snap back, it's going to hurt. But now I know how to keep it to where it's stretched to. Sometimes along the journey of winning, you have to learn how to lose. And by losing is a lesson towards what the goal you're going towards. That makes sense, right?
That makes a lot of sense. Oh, yeah, most definitely.
That's why most people are scared to come out of their environments.
Yeah. Right. Thank you.
I appreciate you, my brother. What's your name?
Clem.
Let's give it up for Clem, guys. Let's give it up for him. Appreciate you, my brother. But a lot of times when you pursuing, you look for people to give you validation. You start looking for it. And the sad part is, along the process of looking for validation, validation plays hide and seek with you. And it's like peekaboo. Sometimes people act like they support you, but in reality, they don't. Oh, that's good. And I'm going to tell you one of the biggest things that a hater could say to you. And I want y'all to hear this good. And anybody say this, know that they're a damn hater. The biggest thing a hater can say is, oh, your little podcast. Oh, I seen your little wood business. Oh, I heard your little beat. Oh, Tyler, I heard your little song. Anyone that talks like that is a goddamn hater. Because 9 out of 10 times when they put the little in front of it, that is a way of trying to manipulate or minimize who you are. Why you put little? Why did you put little in front of it? Oh, I seen your little podcast. Oh, I seen your little beat. Now, we ain't doing that. We ain't doing that. Because I'm willing to take chances on something that you're not willing to. I'm willing to commit myself to something that you're not willing to commit yourself to. See, I don't demand, I'm going to tell you something. I don't ask myself to be great. I demand myself to be great. Because I'm in charge of my life. Somebody need to take back their goddamn life. Why are you waiting to be validated when you can validate your goddamn self? I told a guy the other day, I am not waiting for a Caucasian to tell me when to celebrate my black heroes. You got me screwed up. I'm not going to wait for America to tell me when to celebrate my black heroes. Are you kidding me? Rosa goddamn Parks is my girl. Harriet Tubman is my girl. Sojourner Truth is my girl. Martin Luther King is my guy. Malcolm X is my boy. And we should celebrate these people. We shouldn't wait for people to validate who we need to validate. We're sitting back waiting for everything to happen. Picketing and protesting when we need to be about action. Changing the perspective of life is sometimes cleaning your own lens. I noticed that social media has given people a lens that they overly stare into to the point where they're not looking through their own windows. I'm finally happy that people are starting to see that these perfect relationships that you see in aren't real. They not real. Yes, Tasha and Mike look perfect because Tasha and Mike are doing something called a video. I'm going to give y'all a quick story. One of the guys I know really well, he's an influencer. You know what he did during Valentine's Day? He put do you know how they put the money flowers together? The bouquet of money? Him and his girl did a fake video. That video's over 1 million+ views. And you should see the women in the comments. Now that's a real man. I'm not going to tell my man business, but that was cap. The whole video was fake. Because they know this is what people want to see in the world. It's sad when the most imperfect people are looking for perfection. Let me say that again. You have a person that will admit that they're imperfect, but yet and still look for someone to attach themselves that's perfect. When there's no such thing as perfection. You don't make mistakes, you don't grow. If you don't lose, you don't learn. Life is a whole journey of you continuing to grow from everything you've gone through, you've been through, and you're currently going through. Sometimes there are people who are crying about the ditch they dug themselves into. They're in ditches that they've dug themselves into. And they stand there, guess what they're doing? Rather than trying to climb out, they're digging themselves deeper. That's the ditch of life. I did a video that went viral, and I want you to put this up when you do it. I did a video that went viral. The video is talking about how someone went on vacation to ask me to borrow $350 while they were on vacation. And I'm going to say this on record, guys, and I have to talk about this. I said I would. Our culture has multiple cultures inside of one culture. There's multiple cultures. One culture believes in educating their children and pushing them to be great, keeping them in the household so they can grow, save their money, and elevate. There's another culture that believes that throwing your children in the workforce, kick them out the house, and make them go struggle. And there's another one that believes in living off HUD, Section 8, and welfare. That's 3 different cultures right there. And I can give you more and more and more. But there's a lot of cultures inside one culture. So when I said, the guy asked me to borrow $350 while on vacation, people miss the point. It's not about the $350. It's the negligence of him being mature enough that he's on vacation while wasting his resources and begging someone else, which is called entitlement. When you expect someone to bail you out in your poor decision making, that is entitlement, which ultimately states that you have a level of narcissism in you. Narcissists are very entitled people. He didn't leave nothing with me. I don't owe him nothing. So it's not my job to bail you out when you make poor decisions. To believe I can go into a restaurant and order the most expensive thing on the menu because my friend got money, that ain't diabolical? But a person that believes like, you got it, you should pay for it, that means he my shorty. He my whole shorty. Think about that narrative. This grown man on vacation and he wants me to give him $350 while on vacation. He is my whole shorty. That is crazy. But the culture believes that this is wrong, that I didn't give it to him. 9 out of 10 times you see the people that have it, right? The reason why they have it because they don't believe like the people that don't have it. Let me say that again. When you see someone that has it, 9 out of 10 times, the people that have it, they do not behave like the people that don't have it. So I was conscious of my spending habits. You were unconscious, but you said, you know what? I'm sitting there, Birdman, rubbing my hands together, plotting on your finances. If that's not the level of diabolicalness, I don't know what that is. That's diabolical. Oh my God. Damn. What are we saying here, guys? We got to grow up and enlighten yourself to elevate.
Would you say that like toxic relationships or codependent relationships, is that a form of seeking validation?
100%. Because when you look at toxic is just the behavior. That might be your mentality. I don't want to say toxic is a level of codependency, but the toxic behavior is because that's what you may be used to. Like I say all the time, we're creatures of habit. So sometimes the toxic behavior is what you normalize. The other day, my boy said every time he dates a girl, the girl always disrespects him in an argument. But I said, do you believe that maybe you might be attracted to a type? I said, so if you don't work on yourself, you're going to keep attracting the different names, but the same exact people. Let me say that again. You're going to keep attracting the different names, but the same exact people. I'll go on record and say this. I don't give a damn who get mad. Every time I broke up with a girl, I elevated and got better. Leisha? Every time I left a girl, I elevated and got a better woman. Because every time I left a relationship, I gave myself time to learn me and what works for me. But if a man tells me right now that a healthy relationship is dating a person that insults, disrespects, regardless of behavior, and I want Miss Sonia to hear this, regardless if you make somebody mad, it doesn't validate the fact that you can disrespect somebody. Self-control is the best control. I cannot get mad at my boss and curse him out. It is not healthy. You have to always control your behavior. That's when you know you're elevated and growing. Would you agree? That's humans. I had to learn that myself. I would justify my poor behavior with doing more poor behavior because I wanted to justify my poor behavior. I'm going to go on record and say this, seeking validation. I remember when I was insecure and I wasn't happy with myself, I would run to multiple women to make me feel better about myself. To make me feel better. Because I wasn't comfortable with the person I was looking at in the mirror. So rather than me look at myself, I wanted to go bleed on every woman I could find. I came to hurt, break and manipulate everybody because that's how I was projecting on myself how I felt. But it takes a man to be honest. I come from men that were very toxic who learned how to take advantage of women. And I did the same thing, seeking validation. We're not talking about just economically. We're talking about emotional validation. We're talking about mental validation. There's a multitude of validations that people can seek. There are women who gravitate towards men because daddy did not validate her. There are men who look for women because they weren't validated. And I'm going to tell you something that a lot of men might say, a little pawsy. A lot of these men nowadays who don't grow up with fathers look for validation from men because they were never validated by a man. It might sound a little pawsy. No diddy. But this is the logic. When you see that man that's looking for a man to validate him because a man never told him that you're a king, you're great. I know you can be somebody. So what that man looks for, every day, someone that talks to that man, that little boy that's in him, telling him that he's great. He's somebody. That little girl that you call, or that grown woman that you call promiscuous, you don't see the promiscuity is her looking for validation called love. The man never validated that little girl, so therefore that little girl seeks validation from a multitude of men because she's seeking the feeling that her dad never gave her. This is humans, guys. But from the average mind, they're gonna judge, laugh, but not learn why. Behind every action is a reaction. And the first action was there was never someone there that validate that person. That's why you have someone looking for love in all the wrong places. That's another way of seeking validation. I'm gonna go on record and say this, and someone gonna get mad. In most cases, when a woman don't grow up with a father, a lot of times she cannot hear a man tell her about herself. And this is my history of dating. If a woman doesn't grow up with a father, it's harder for her to hear a man tell her about herself. If a man don't grow up with a father, a lot of times it's hard for him to hear a man's opinion because of the fact that he already believes that he is a man already. They can't take constructive criticism. This is a healthy practice that if you grew around will be normalized to you. Understanding how to sit there and listen to someone tell you about yourself. That's like me looking at you right now. Everybody that's on my live right now, I'm looking at you dead in your face. I see a booger. And I tell you that you got a booger. And you tell me you don't got a booger. Because I'm looking at you in your face and you telling me you don't have a booger. I'm looking at you. I see you. I can see you better than you can see yourself. But if a human think they can see themselves better than the world can see them, they're delusional. This is the validation. A lot of us are seeking validation. But it's different when you learn to love yourself. I seek validation. I'm going to give y'all a gem, and I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be a little vulnerable. I don't care if y'all get a little weird. It is what it is. I don't give a damn. Listen, God already told me he loved me. He respects me. He appreciates me. He loves the man I'm becoming. God tells me this every day. We have our conversations. He talks to me great. And I'm going to be honest with you. He is sarcastic. I don't know if y'all know him like I do, but I know him. He's very sarcastic. He is humorous. He's funny. And the one thing I want to admit, and I want everybody to hear this, the number one thing about the God that I love, he's very forgiving. He's forgiving. And the reason why I want you to hear that he's forgiving is because he already forgave you for things that you're over-sentencing yourself on. He's already forgiven you. He's already validated you. You don't understand the number one validation that you can get is a phone call called life every damn morning. The number one validation that you can get every damn morning is the wake-up call. Ring, ring, Dre, get up. I chose you again. Ring, ring, Kinsey, get up. I chose you again. Ring, ring, Tyler, get up. I chose you again. Ring, ring, Chris, get up. I chose you again. Alicia, get up. I chose you again. Even when you're not willing to choose yourself, when you wake up talking about I'm tired, he looking at you, I gave you sleep. I gave you life again. But we don't see that validation. We look at all the wrong validation. You're looking for people who are unhappy with themselves telling you how to be happy. How are you getting directions to somewhere that someone has never been? There's some people that have never been to the island called happiness, but they're looking for directions from people who don't have directions how to get to happy. You're going to a straight goddamn dead end. Diabolical. Someone calling right now, 516-253-1150. One more time, 516-253-1150. When you're looking for validation, you have to be willing to hear, because the worst person that has a disability is one who cannot hear what they need to hear and one who cannot see what they need to see. When you have a person who is not willing to hear what they need to hear and see what they need to see, they'll ultimately hear what they want to hear and see what they want to see. You ever had somebody tell you a story and you was there and you saw what happened and they tell you a different story? You ever seen someone, they heard what you heard and they tell you something completely different from what you heard? Because that's the disability that you can give yourself. When you tell yourself what you want to hear, you'll start hearing what you want to hear. When you believe what you want to believe, you'll start believing what you want to believe. That's our mentality. Our culture is so captivated about what we didn't do that we can't see what we're not doing. Do you hear that again? You worried about what your mother didn't do, but you're not worried about the next 35 years you've been on earth. You haven't done your goddamn self, but you're still blaming your goddamn mother. My mother ain't got to read a book for me to learn how to read. My mother don't have to teach me financial literacy to learn how to read. I'll learn it myself. Because life is absolutely a choice. The most amazing thing a human can do on earth is do something that their family has never done in order to move the new family tree to a higher level. Because we say we may bear the fruit, but the fruit that come from this can roll to another piece of soil, land and plant the new seeds, and ultimately have better bearing of fruit. Would you build a house on sand? Would you build a house on sand? I'm asking everybody in my life, would you build a goddamn house on sand? If I gave you free land, a whole acre, and all of it is sand, would you build a house there? Would you build a house there? Would you build a house on sand? A lot of us are building our dreams on sand and we wonder why they're sinking. Because what I'm getting at is everything starts with the foundation. Everything in life starts with the foundation. If a person can't see the foundation is the most prominent point of a person's elevation, therefore you will never elevate. Look at that. You building your goddamn idea on sand. It's the validation we're seeking. Love me. Praise me. Tell me I'm great. Let's reverse that. I'm special. I'm great. I'm somebody. I'm a winner. I'm going to achieve my goals. Those are affirmations that you have to give yourself. Because I hate to say this. You got to start your party and realize that nobody's going to be there until the party get live. God damn. Y'all don't hear me, y'all don't hear me, y'all don't hear me. When you start your party, you're going to be the only person there. Even if you started on time, you're going to be the only person at this goddamn party. But by the time people get there, the party gets lava. That's how your idea works. Your idea is the party that no one is at. Coming mad late to the party. And now they want to celebrate because the party's lit. But you got to see who's at that goddamn party from day one, as soon as the party start, helping you put everything together. Who's seen the vision. Who supports the idea. And 9 out of 10 times it's not going to look like who you want it to look like. You giving your friend who's bad with money the cashier's job. You giving your mother management skills who had never managed nothing in her life. You're giving your brother the job who's the hater of all haters to hoping that he supports you. This is a mentality, guys. Every time I meet someone, right, the number one thing I've noticed that a lot of people that's obtaining success, everyone has the same family stories. They don't support me. They don't got my back. But I'm going to tell you something. I thank God, my mentor told me this years ago, you can build family, but when you keep trying to help family that don't want to help themselves, they're going to keep helping themselves and taking away from you. Family support. Family helps. Family add value. If I only take away and I don't bring anything to the table, eventually the table will be empty. There's a video I seen. There was a man, right? He started a store. Initially, he used to do things on consignment. He used to be like, yo, a lot of the people that lived in the town, they didn't have money. So he would say, like, you know what? Pay me at the end of the week. Eventually, the people kept taking advantage of him. When he first got the store, the whole store was full of goods. By the time he was a year into the store was flat, empty with nothing. Because he was giving what he couldn't afford to give. And people took advantage. Because sometimes the people you're trying to help out are people that don't want help. They just want to take advantage. We got to learn the difference between helping someone and allow them to take advantage of us. No one's going to support you in the beginning because they don't believe. And it's not their job, and you shouldn't spend your energies on making them believe. You're trying to force someone to believe. Why? It is what it is. If you don't believe in me, my job is to make you wish you would have jumped on board. If you don't believe in me, my job is to make you wish you would have jumped on board. But I'm not going to complain, right? I'm going to sit back and watch what people are because people will show you who they are. It's on you to accept it. I'm not forcing nobody's mentality. I'm not crying about no one not helping. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to spend all that energy working on my dream. I'm going to spend all that energy working on my idea. Because you got to be comfortable to keep going even when the cheering stops. You have to be comfortable with going even when no one is cheering for you. That's like in sports, when we played away games and none of our fans came, you had to know how to lock in mentally and continue to play even though no one is there to support you. That's how you gotta view life. Imagine going to a game that's an away game. You're not home and you're miles and miles away from home and none of your community comes to support. You gotta still be able to lock in and produce even though no one is there to support you. That's how you have to think about life. Let me say that again. Kenzie didn't hear this. Kenzie, imagine going to an away game. And when you go to an away game, you're so far from home that none of your people come to support you. And then when you get there, you have to be able to lock in and still produce because you know you're meant to be there and you know you're there to win. That's the analogy of life. When you're able to still produce when nobody's rooting for you. When you're still able to go and accomplish when no one is there saying you're a winner. Because I'm going to tell you something. Everything tastes better when no one believes that you can do it. Everything in life tastes better when no one believes that you can do it. Because 9 out of 10 times, the people that tell you that you cannot is people that don't want you to. I'm going to tell you something. One of the greatest things I ever got, and I want you to hear this story. My mother, and I love my mother dear. Let me give her a round of applause. My mother been, for years, she's been working for an autistic company. For years. I grew around autism my whole life to the point where I'm very comfortable with it. I understand it. I can see it for years. I'm talking about my whole natural life, I've been around autism, right? One day, there was a guy in the house that she worked at. She said, he's graduating. He asked me to ask you to come to the graduation. I went to the graduation. And he didn't graduate high school, he's graduating college. He was getting his associate's degree on the spectrum of autism, right? I'm gonna show you something. And he's a mathematician, which is amazing. He's a mathematician, beast in math, right? So while I'm sitting there at the graduation, I'm young at the time, probably 16. He got up and said one of the dopest lines that stuck with me for life, and it never left me. When he stood up in the room, he said this. He said, it's funny how people tease me because I was born with a disability, but you don't tease the people who weren't born with a disability and do absolutely nothing with their goddamn life. Let me say that one more time. I want someone to hear that very well. This man, who was born on a spectrum of autism, stood in front of a room full of people at his college graduation and said, it's funny how people tease me because I was born with a disability, but yet and still you don't tease people or laugh at people who were not born with a disability, who do nothing with their goddamn life. When I talk about as a man, I swallowed the biggest and looked at myself and did some self-reflecting at that moment and said, wow, who am I to make another excuse? There are people out here right now breaking generational curse that they've exceeded their expectations. Exceeded. People told you won't amount to nothing, but you still amounted to more. Because sometimes the people that you expect to count you in, they can't even goddamn count. The people you expect them to count you in, they can't even count. I'm going to tell you something. I want everybody to hear this. And I'm going to be honest with you. The story bothers me every time I say it. Every time I say the story, it bothers me. One day, I'm yelling at my son. I was upset with him. He did something that I didn't like. And I'm yelling at him. And I'm looking at him. I'm screaming at him. Like I'm talking about, and you did this, and you did this, and you did this. Because I was very upset. You know, I said a joke in anger and frustration. I said, yo, what do you want, a hug? You know what he looked at me and said? He said, yes, and started crying. And I looked at him and said, damn. Sometimes knowing that people don't need the extra, they just need the love and support. Let me say that one more time. I'm telling you this story. Every time I say this story, it makes me want to cry. And I'm going to be honest. I was yelling at my son. I grew up where you had to be rough and tough. Then I removed my son to an environment where he don't have to be like that. So we have two different lives. He didn't grow up the way I grew up. He don't have to defend and protect himself because I'm here. My son knows God before me. He's in an environment where it's controlled. So I looked at him one day and I said, I'm screaming at him at the top of my lungs. I said to him, yo, you act like you need a hug. I said, you need a hug? He started crying and said, yes. At that moment, I realized that he needed validation from his father, learning how to embrace manhood. There are a lot of people right now who get teased, who get frowned upon, who get laughed at. But sometimes the examples we have about being a man aren't the greatest examples. So a lot of us are failing at a job that we were never taught how to do. And it's sad. I listen to my sisters online who diss men, and I get frustrated because a lot of these women that diss men, they don't notice that they don't come from real men. A woman can love a man to death, but she can never teach a man how to be a man. The only man that can teach a man how to be a man is a man. You know one of the greatest days he told me that happened to him one day with me? And I want y'all to hear this. One day he was sitting in his room. He had his head down like this. I walked in the room and I picked his head up. And he said, what? And I said, why is your head down? He said, I'm just thinking. I said, I want you to think, but I want you to point your head to the sky. I don't want your ideas to go down. I want them to go up. And he was 12 years old at that time. You know, to this day, he still tell me that story. So what I'm getting at is sometimes, guys, the validation that we give each other is what can help each other get past these mental blockades. Because everyone you see that's struggling, there is a wall that don't exist in their mind, that doesn't exist physically, but it exists in their mind. And they're the only ones that could see the wall in front of them, right? Because naturally, look at this narrative. Imagine if I go outside and I look up, but yet and still there's a wall. How could I see the sun? How could I see the sky? Where there's a wall over me everywhere I go. So my ideas come back down as fast as they go up. But if you break that wall, your ideas will continue to sell and go. But a lot of us are scared to break past certain barriers that may never exist. When I picked my son's head up, I said, hold your head up and point your ideas to the sky. I said, stop putting your head down. I don't want your ideas to go down. I want your ideas to go up. You told me you was thinking. And anybody on my live today, while you're thinking, I want you to point your head up. Pick your head up, Queen. Pick your head up, King. Because too many people are not going to tell you you're great, even though you're breaking barriers. The world is full of haters. And you have to learn how to navigate these oceans. Because a lot of the sharks are the ones that's eating at your boat. And the sharks that's eating at your boat are people that say, hi, friend. Hey, girl. Hey, bestie. What's up, my dude? I see you out here. A lot of people disguise hate with support. Because a lot of people that act like they support you, they don't want you to go surpass a certain level. Right? So in order for them not to allow you to go to a certain level, they act like they're supporting you. Right? This is what we do. I know you're going to go to a certain level. So I don't want to act like you, right? I want to act like I don't want to see you go so far. A lot of people carry a lot of this on their shoulder. Just need a hug and carry on. I agree 100%, my sister. God is diamond. I agree with you 100%. 100%. There were times where I seek validation. And I was looking for someone to embrace the young man inside of me. All my insecurities came from my childhood. Poverty, fatherless, no support, bunch of kids living on a single income. That's sounds like the recipe for failure. I realized one day I woke up, I remember one time I woke up and I started hanging out in the streets because it naturally became my father. And what's sad is a person will look at you like you're making an excuse. But what is an excuse to a child? An excuse becomes behavior because if a child don't know better, they only do what they think is better. Most of the young men and women you see that's outside wilding is because of their level of insecurity. They're very insecure, seeking validation. I got at one point in my life into a gang because I was looking for love that didn't exist. I had the biggest love of my life, which was my mom, but I couldn't embrace her love because I felt like her love wasn't enough. I always look at life as when you see something in whole, right? When you cut it in half and you separate it and you only live with this half, there's a part of you that needs to learn the other half of yourself. So for years, I kept seeking who I was, not knowing myself because I didn't grow up with my father. So the anger stemmed from my mother's struggles. The anger stemmed from not seeing the help. And I made every conscious, unconscious decision to self-sabotage based on my insecurities. An unhappy mind can only do unhappy things. You'll say that she should know better, she's grown. But what is grown because of age or because of maturity? There are a lot of immature grown-ups that you see walking around Earth every day because they still haven't healed that little boy and that little girl that's still inside of them. That's the validation. I want someone in my life to understand that you are a great man. I don't care what mistakes you made. You are a great woman. I don't care what mistakes you made. Because before anybody can forgive you, you have to forgive yourself. And even if people don't forgive you, at least you forgive yourself. I always tell people sorry that I've affected over time. And the reason why I do that is because it's not about them, it's about me. Being able to release. Being able to move on. A lot of us haven't moved on. You have to forgive that person that did you wrong. Because the person that did you wrong only did you wrong because they did not love themselves. How you feel about yourself is how you treat others. Right? Someone said, I agree. Someone said there's a lot of people that are very young and immature. I watch people become codependent and trauma bond based on the experiences they experienced in life. And then they think they can build a healthy relationship. You have two very unhealthy people getting together thinking they're going to build a healthy situation and ultimately creating a very unhealthy child who only behaves to the magnitude of the generational traumas that they inherit. A lot of us have to start self-reflecting so we can start self-projecting. I want someone to call in before we get out of here today. 516-253-1150. 516-253-1150. Right? It took me a long time to accept myself. It took me a long time to be honest with myself. It took me a long time to be vulnerable enough to have these level of conversations. We all seek validation at some point. And a lot of times we seek validation from people who haven't validated themselves. You cannot expect someone to love you that don't love themselves. You cannot expect someone to respect you who don't respect themselves. You can't expect someone to appreciate you who don't appreciate themselves. You can't expect someone to be there for you when they're not even there for themselves. You can't expect someone to count you in when they don't count themselves in. You can't expect someone to treat you better than they're willing to treat themselves. As a culture, we got to break certain molds and stop seeking validation. I watched this girl the other day, and we was doing a one-on-one, and she loves attention from men, loves it. And I'm telling her right now, her main issue is the daddy issue. And she doesn't want to accept it. She's rebuttaling it. No, I just like the attention. But there's something in you. It's called a Jezebel spirit. It's a Jezebel spirit. And I'm telling her about this particular spirit. And she's fighting it. So long story short, I said, I'm going to show you you. I said, open your phone. She goes, okay. She opened her phone. I went in her Instagram and I clicked search. All you see is men. Men all through her algorithm. I said, I'm going to show you further you. She said, go ahead. She said, that don't mean nothing. I said, okay, I'm going to show you more. After I showed her Instagram algorithm, I click her messages. I said, look, all you see is men. Men, 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 men. She's a very attractive girl. The sad part about her attractiveness, she thinks she's very ugly. Some of the most beautiful people do the most ugliest things. Because that beauty is not a look, it's an action. you can do something that is more beautiful than looking at someone. I'll give you one. You watch a person right now climb a building and pull a child out of a burning house. That's beautiful, ain't it? Looks can never surpass that. I'll give you another one. You watch a person walking an old lady across the street. That's beautiful, ain't it? Looks can never surpass that. When you start putting action behind a lot of the words that we use, ugly is a look, but it's not a look, it's a behavior. Beauty is a behavior. Because when you look beyond the aesthetics, you'll see that the most beautiful, aesthetically pleasing people are some of the ugliest people you could ever meet. We got to look at the actions and start seeing that everything that we see in life, we're trying to validate ourselves. In the process of learning self, a lot of us hurt others. And the saddest part is, until you learn to love you, no one will love you more than you're willing to love you. Till next time, guys. Don't let that go over your head.